Well, Isabella Maldonado is retired from law enforcement and once worked as a commander of special investigations and forensics. Isabella, thank you so much for joining us today. Now, the scenario, you've got a shooter on the 32nd floor of a hotel shooting down with what could possibly be a fully automatic weapon on a huge crowd of people. Is this like a nightmare scenario for law enforcement?
This is the worst case scenario for law enforcement. In reality, the situation where you have a very determined lone gunman is about as bad as it gets. And there's a few reasons for that. If it's not a lone gunman, then in law enforcement circles, we can hope that maybe we can catch their communication before the attack occurs. And if it's someone who's not so determined, then they may not be able to avail themselves of weapons or train themselves to use the weapons effectively. So when you combine those two things, and then obviously something occurs with some sort of a mental break or something like that, that then takes away the last barrier, which would be some sort of conscience or something that would prevent them from acting. So when you have those two situations, it's very, very difficult to either predict or stop this once it gets started.
So if you're sitting at home watching this right now, and you're going to some outdoor venue, whether it's in Las Vegas or here or wherever it is, should you stop and think twice about it?
I don't believe that people should stop living their lives. They should go ahead and proceed with what it is they want to do. But you always want situational awareness. When you're in a venue like this, a very good idea is to make sure you take a look at all of the exits, know where they are, not just the same way you came in, but know different ways to get out. Always look around with a plan of attack. In law enforcement, we learned to do this early in our careers. Everywhere we go, on or off duty, we're always scanning, is the term that we use.
So all of these people, that a majority of them that were hit by gunfire were near the stage, they said. Obviously not near an exit. Are you better off at a festival seating situation where everybody can just stand wherever they want, being closer to an exit?
It's possible, but you don't have as good of a view, so
right.
Obviously people want to approach the stage.
But if this is the new normal, maybe that's what you do.
You may want to reconsider that, but obviously every situation is different, and you want to have your own game of what you're going to do depending on what you see when you get there.
Now, people are talking a lot about the shooter. He seems like a pretty typical guy, you know, 64 years old, retiree, educated, wealthy, like to travel. To the general public, that seems pretty average, I would say. But from a law enforcement point of view, is there anything there that maybe a red flag, something that would say this person is capable of just going off the deep end?
From what I have heard reported so far today, there are no obvious red flags. And I think that's why this person was not on anybody's watch list, because there weren't any obvious red flags.
Okay. So what happens now? I mean, we know who the shooter is. From an investigation standpoint, what are you looking at?
Right. There's a couple of different things that happen during the investigative process. First, they will go through and they will try to figure out everything this person had been doing over the last few days and last few weeks. Who was he in contact with? What was he saying? They'll check social media. They'll check financials. They'll check all kinds of things to try to figure out exactly what all was going on, just to make sure that he truly was acting alone and that no one else was acting in concert with him. The other component that they'll do is they will dissect this incident down to the nth degree for law enforcement purposes for future planning. Going forward now, law enforcement is going to change. It always does in response to mass attacks like these. And now we're going to have to start looking at things like snipers that we didn't necessarily look at before in the same way.
Look, you're a former law enforcement expert. You know these situations. You know as much as we do at this point. Do you have any theories about what might have set him off and why he was intent on killing as many people as he could?
It is very difficult to hazard a guess. It seems like, from what we've heard so far, his life seemed like it was on track. There was nothing that looked like it was coming off the rails. So it's very hard to tell.
He was spending a lot of money, though, betting.
Towards the end.
Towards the end, he was betting. Right, he had a lot of money,
yeah.
Correct? So that could maybe in the end be a sign.
Not necessarily, no. There was a lot of high rollers. I mean, that's how Las Vegas makes its money, is from the high rollers. So, again, nothing that's immediate there. But certainly they will be looking at that, and I'm sure that forensic psychologists will be spending a great deal of time looking into the exact details of the situation.
All right.
And just to reiterate, no one here is saying don't go to concerts and don't
Right.
live your life, but just, as she said,
It just has to be something
be aware
you think
of your
about,
surroundings,
right?
especially now.
Unfortunately, that's the new norm, I believe.
Our world has changed. Thank you for coming in. and
Isabella
your
Maldonado,
expertise.
thank you so much for your expertise. Well,